Hello, my name is Blessing John. Welcome to the Second Chance platform. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this month, we've been talking about the series of how to know the one. This kind of intentional conversations you should be having during the engagement and planning of the wedding. And last week, I talked about some myths about marriage, and today is a continuation about some myths about marriage. But just like just a reminder. We talked about last week. I talked about some of the myths about marriage. I spoke about sex. I spoke about loss. That people think that marriage cure loss. Marriage does not cure loss. And secondly, I spoke about a whole lot of things the things you need to put in place. I talked about that people feel that before you get married, the myth about marriage that you must have everything in common, that it is your spouse's job to make you happy and all that. I put all that together. So today is just a continuation of some myths about marriage. And today's I'm just going to give you a few tips and some of the few myths I know that are about marriage. One is that majorly, which is it's a very serious issues that has really destroyed a lot of relationships, which is finances. The beauty and the importance of having to plan your finance and know that, okay, you both have two different mindsets about finances is very important. When you have an understanding about how you manage your finance, how you deal with finance, how you handle finance, it will help in your marital journey. I always advocate of the I always advocate that as a married couple or would intending couples to be married, always have an agreement when it comes to finances, mostly when it comes to, okay, how to put the finance together, what should be saved, what should be spent, which money you want to spend, which one do you want to save. It's important to have these agreements. It's important to have these conversations, because if you don't have them, what is important to another might just be the other person's, like, okay, it's fun. Some people like to travel, some people like music, some of them, a lady will tell you, okay, the shoe is more important to me, the handbag is more important to me. The guy will say, no, I like the football, the ball is more important to me. So these conversations are things you need to have, so that way you understand that, okay, in terms of finances, what are we doing? This is what we are saving, this is what we are spending, and who is running the finances? Is the finances only on one person to run? Have these intentional conversations about your finances, because the myth about marriage is that once you get married, all your financial problems are solved. It's not true. The minute you get married, you have more financial issues if you've not come to terms of knowing to have intentional conversations about your finances. The issues grow more, they become more intense in your marriage, because initially from the beginning you had an idea, you had an ideology and a mindset that, oh, once you get married, your financial problems are solved. And secondly, there's nothing wrong as a married couple that both of you would have financially help each other. The mindset, like, okay, a while back I had a friend who was getting married, and she was just pointing everything down the shelf. She wants this, she wants that, she wants that, and she was taking every money off the guy's pocket. And I said to her, why are you doing all this? She said, it's her wedding, so she must get everything. I said, I understand it's your wedding. It's also his wedding. You literally make all the decisions at the wedding, which for me, I find it a bit uncomfortable with, because if you're making all the decisions for the wedding planning, it means in that marriage, you're the only one that's going to be making all the decisions. He guy might just allow you make all these decisions. Then when you get married, he turn you into, he begins to, control you, and you begin to wonder he has changed. He did not change. You're just allowed, you had your way so that you can have a peaceful wedding. Then he gets you in and begin to mess you up. No, I told her, I said, it's your wedding and his wedding. So there's nothing wrong if you contribute to your wedding. Don't put all the burden on the guy. One, it makes you irresponsible. Irresponsible makes you look like you don't have dignity. Put some dignity in yourself and bring out some money. Handle some of the bills yourself. I'm not saying, okay, go pay from the African, go pay for your dowry and all of that, but handle some part of the wedding expenses and don't leave everything to the guy. So that's just an advice I just wanted to put out there. So always understand that it's also good to save some sort of money that is like money you need, maybe each of you just need. It's an advice, a tip. You just need to do one or two things for each other that you like for yourself. Because sometimes when you pull out a chunk of money from the money, your savings or the family savings, use it to get, maybe to you is to travel to Cancun or to Mexico for a vacation. But to your spouse, your partner, to them, he or she feels like, why spend all that money on vacation? But for you, vacation or traveling is important to you. So it's good to have an extra money, like an extra savings, where the both of you have access to, and you can split it 50 by 50 and say, okay, we'll put this money together at the end of each year or each quarterly, depending on how you want to do it. We split it, and whatever we like, we do with our money, we do with the 50 that we both have. It's important to put that into your financial planning as a family. Then another myth is that some people have good marriage and others don't. It's not true. Marriage is work. There is nobody that has good marriage. There's no good marriage that just fell down from heaven or fell down from the sky. It's not possible. Even two people who are so in love and running around each other like, oh, we cannot live without each other. If they don't work at their relationship and that marriage, the marriage will fail. So marriage is work. So the people you see that have good marriage today is because they have worked at it. They've worked at their marriage, they have worked at communication, they have worked at the finances, they have worked at sex, they have worked at everything. So that's why you're saying that, oh, they have good marriage. And working at something takes time. It doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just expect that because you got married 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, everything's just going to happen, with so much speed. No, give it time. Begin to work at it. At every phase of your marriage, work at it. Work at every phase of your marriage. Don't begin to feel like, I'm married now, so everything should just happen naturally. It doesn't happen naturally. You have to give it the work. If you give it the work, then you enjoy the benefit that comes with it. That's the benefit. You see some people and you say, this person has good marriage. Their marriage is good. Their marriage is good because they work at it. They work at communication. They work at their finances. They work at they work at relationship with their family, relationship with their spouse. Some of them even go as far as to counseling. Maybe their pastor or pray for professional counseling service, and just to make sure their marital journey gets better. So these are the things you need to put in place and understand that there's no good marriage out there if you don't work at it. If you don't work on your marriage, if you don't work at your marriage will not be good for you. If you want a good marriage, you need to work at it. And what do I mean by what do I mean by work at it? You need to work at communication. I mean, have intentional conversations, work at your communication level, know how to have communications with your partner, know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, because it is not just what you say, it is how you say it when you say what you said. Do you understand? If that makes sense. Do you understand? You need to know when to speak, when to be quiet, what to say, how to say it, and at the time you should say it. It's not all the time you just sit down and like, okay, as it comes, as it hurts in your head, you just pour it out there. No. There are some people that no matter how angry you are, when you're angry and speaking to them, they don't hear you. It's when you calm down, they listen to you. So you need to study your partner and know when to speak and what works for you. Excuse me. Another thing you need to also work at is discuss scriptures together. As a believer, as a Christian marriage, you need to discuss scriptures together, study the word together, analyze scriptures, talk whatever revelations you get from going through the scriptures, analyze it together. It also helps in working at your marriage. Another thing you need to also work at is pray with your spouse. Pray with your spouse. Pray together as couples. Pray with your spouse. Pray for your spouse and pray for each other. Pray for your marriage. I mean, 1, pray for your spouse, pray together, and pray for each other. It's very important you always hold hands together as couples to pray for each other. It is very good. It helps your marriage. It helps your marital journey. It helps you to bond, because the Bible says that if two shall agree upon a thing on the earth, it shall be established in heaven. It said, he further went and said, the scripture says that one would chase 1,000, but two would put 10,000 to flight. So the power and the energy that you would bring, that comes, the conquer, the battles you can win when you pray together is much more when you stay alone to pray. So it's very, very advisable as spouses, as couples, to learn to pray together, pray for each other, and pray with one another. Another thing, you also need to also learn to forgive one another. Let forgiveness be the order of the day in your say. If there's anything you want to take home from the series of this month, is forgiveness. I always say this: if you married is two forgiving spirits coming together to say I do. If you know you don't have the heart to forgive, please do not get married, because you're going to constantly step on each other's toes. So the only thing that keeps that marriage working is the heart of forgiveness. It's unforgiveness that make people go out and say, oh, I can't stay in this marriage anymore, and they get divorced. So it is important for you to learn forgiveness, learn to forgive each other, learn to know that, oh yes, I am ready to forgive. And that's because if you have the heart of forgiveness and the willingness to always forgive, you'll be able to work at that marriage, and your marriage will work. Amen. Another thing, learn to attend counseling together. If you're facing difficulties, you no longer can manage it with yourselves. Go out. It's not a shame. Meet someone that is hired, has been there, maybe your pastor, or pay for a professional counselor. Go and seek counsel. Seek counsel. Talk about that. Most times, I always say this: a problem shared is somewhat half solved, because it is your burden. Your heart is light, so you cannot talk from a space of understanding and not a space of pain. So go out there, talk about your issues with the professionals, a pastor, a counselor. Don't just go telling family and friends. That's the worst mistake you can ever make. If you have issues in your marriage, or you have issues with your spouse, please do not speak to your family about it. Because by the time you and your spouse settles, your family you've spoken to about it will not let it go. It's not because they are biased. No, it is just natural. It's their own. And this is what happens. As a parent, I'm speaking from a parent point of view. Unconsciously and unintentionally, you tend to take sides with your children. Even when you know that, okay, you tend to want to favor your children over another person's child. It is not something you plan for. It is just a natural instinct. So it's the more reason why, if you're having issues with your spouse, please do not discuss it with either of your family members. Take it to your pastor, take it to your marriage counselor, take it to somebody you respect, that has gone out, that has gone up there, that you know that, okay, this person, their marriage is working. Learn to speak to someone you can trust, someone that can keep this secret between you and your spouse and not tell the whole world about it. It's not a good thing for you to start sharing every of your family marital issues with your friends, family. No, they are not the best people to speak to, except you are aware that this particular friend has what's the word now, apart from having good intention, you've seen their marriage work, and you know you've trusted them over the years to have interfered in one or two things. But it is really not advisable for you to want to talk to friends and close people around you about your marital issues, because to say the need that there will be no issues in your marriage, it's a lie. That's not true. You always have issues, will come, but how you manage them and communicate it to each other, that is what makes your marriage work. Because the reason why you see people break up and get divorced, it's not because they don't love each other. You see two people, they say, we love each other, but because of irreconcilable differences, we cannot be together. Why? Because the space of understanding and communication is out. They love each other, they can't be together. Why? One, the forgiveness is not there. They can no longer forgive each other, or they can no longer tolerate each other. They've gone from celebrating each other's weakness, it has become tolerance. And the tolerance has gone thin, and they can no longer manage it. So it's very important for you to seek help when you no longer can get to that point where you can manage it by yourself. It is not wrong. It is a good thing to do. Another thing you need to work on, you need to have what? Hard conversations. See, these conversations can be something that, we need to, because these hard conversations you prevent from having is what leads to a lot of bad marriage. What do I mean by bad marriage? They end up divorced, they break up. Have these hard conversations. It's hard. It will hurt. It might even dig up some old wounds that you don't want to, get there. But if it's going to save you, save your spouse, and save your mental space in that marriage, then have these hard conversations. Talk about it. It hurts you, talk about it. Then be vulnerable. And sometimes I wonder when they say, oh, men don't cry. There's nothing wrong in crying. If you cannot be vulnerable before your spouse, who do you want to be vulnerable with? I know some people take your vulnerability for granted, but please, but I understand. If you watch my previous video, I told you that marry somebody that is someone that you understand each other, someone that have the same goals and values with you. Now, you can be vulnerable with your spouse. If you want to cry, cry it out. Cry together, cry with each other, let it out, be vulnerable. Because most times I would say this from my own my experience with my own husband. When we got married, I was always very uncomfortable with the fact that it was just too hard on. When I mean hard, I never saw him cry, and I was like, are you sure this man is even human? I kept on, until one day I saw something happened that got to him and he cried. You know that changed a whole lot about him for me. It just gave me this different perception about him. I begin to see him in a different light. The soft part of him came out. He became vulnerable, and that for me was just the icing on the cake. If I'd had plans to I don't want to go ahead and marry this man, but because of that just was the icing on the cake for me. Be vulnerable. I know that women are the ones that do most of the crying in marriage, but there's nothing wrong to be vulnerable with your spouse. As a man, it helps your relationship. It makes the woman see you from a different light. Praise God. And another one, and be accountable to each other. Tell each other the truth. Something happened. Oh, you saw a lady out there today and you lost after her, and you decided to, you're able to. But before you say things like this, understand your spouse. Know that your spouse are the type that can manage such conversations, because those kind of conversations are in the category of hard conversations. Can he or she manage it before you say that? You don't just come home and tell your wife or your husband that, oh, I saw this guy. The guy was so cute, man. I even tripped safe. Don't just go out there and say that when you know they can't manage it. But if they can manage it, why not? But there's nothing wrong in having such conversations. It just makes you know that your marriage is grown from being not just loving each other. You are now friends. Myself and my husband will have conversation. He comes like, man, if you see this fine guy I see for road today, I'm like, really? Are you serious? Was she hot? I come out like, man, babe, if you see this tall guy, the guy was so cute. Say, is he cuter than me? I said before, say, go away. He's cuter than me. No, but you can have that. But I've gotten to that level where we can have those conversations. It's not an issue because we are not telling each other we are not suspecting who's cheating or not cheating. No. So you need to get to a point where you build yourself to. It's not a one day thing. It starts from somewhere. You need to start from somewhere. So be accountable to each other. Be accountable to yourself. Be accountable to whatever you do. And then another thing is be open. Be open. There's no need hiding things, secretive, covering up. Be open. I also give one tip in this openness. Be open when it comes to sex as well. Don't be hiding those things. No, I don't want to do this with him so he does not think I'm sport. I don't want to do that to her so she does not feel like maybe I'm cheating. My dear, do whatever you need to do with your spouse in the marital confinement. It is not a sin. Because by the time you are old, you will now begin to tell yourself there's no memory to hang on to. Because there's a time in your life where you will not be able to do those things. So be open to yourself. Be open in your conversations. Be open in your intimacy. Be open. So that's where I'm going to end today. I just want to thank you for joining me, and I hope my short few points and the myths about marriage today blessed you. If you have any questions, you can ask me, and you can leave it. You can send it as a comment, or you can send it as a DM. So I come on live every Friday of every week to just give tips about marriage, relationship, and that's all. So thank you so much for watching me today. My name is Blessing John, and this is the Second Chance platform. We are all on our social media platform. We are on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. So thank you, and do have a lovely weekend. And I pray that God give you a beautiful home. You enjoy your marriage, and you continue to enjoy your marriage as you continue to learn to forgive each other, love each other, and have those hard conversations. Bye for now. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you once again. Bye.